Today, I want to be talking about books. There are a lot of books out there in the world. There are literally millions of these things out there in the world. And they range from a variety of topics, as you are very well aware of. But today I want to be taking some time to be focusing more on a specific niche of self-improvement, and more specifically is the books that revolve around success habits. But the thing is that there are a lot of reoccurring themes throughout every single book that you pick up. I know from my own experiences, from the very few books that I've actually read, there is a variety of things that are overlapping one over the other. Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about financial advice and a variety of other things revolving around self-improvement, and I still see some of those themes popping up in a variety of other books. There are a lot of people that are echoing those sorts of notions from a variety of books, or sharing similar pieces of advice. So the truth is that there are a lot of habit books, or there's a lot of self-improvement books, and just books in general that tend to be echoing or copying similar styles across the board. This isn't necessarily a bad thing in the books department, because it's important to be seeing other people that are echoing the same kinds of things, or to be explaining things in a different way. For other readers, sometimes they need something to be explained to them several times, and perhaps in a different manner, to be able to understand something. That is very important. So that's kind of why I feel like a lot of people are echoing the same kinds of things. But also, as far as writing goes in general, that's the sort of theme that we have, or this day and age that we seem to be having in the industries across the board. There's a lot of people that are taking other people's styles or other people's ideas and expanding on them. For example, there are some things that I agree with on Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I want to be expanding on it further. I've written a couple of articles about it, talking about it and saying like, hey, some of these ideas are really good, some of them need a lot more work to be done, because I think that this sort of way of thinking is good, but it could be a lot better in certain ways. Similarly, some people might be looking at this video and saying like, how I'm explaining things can be good, but there are some other people that will be able to explain it a lot better than I can. And that's okay, that's all right. It's important to have that sort of thing, because how we explain things is based on our own views of the world and what it is that we're exposed to, what sort of information we are exposed to. And that's an important thing as writers in general, to be using that sort of thing, to be stealing other people's ideas and to be expanding on it. Not necessarily copying those ideas, but expanding on them and explaining them in perhaps another way that the author didn't have the chance to explain it properly, or wouldn't even understand or explain it in that sort of way. That still is really key. And that's kind of why a lot of books are very repetitive, and that's kind of the main reason why my whole attitude about books is that I'm very, very, very picky about what it is that I'm picking up and actually reading. Instead, I find myself reading a lot more articles that I find on medium.com, which is a platform that I use a lot of, and that I find a lot more enjoyment in that, because other people's opinions are on there, and they're more micro dosage, as opposed to picking up a book and actually sitting down and reading it for several hours. Instead, I can find myself reading several articles from a variety of people, from a variety of different perspectives, and grow myself in that sort of fashion. But even still, there's going to be a point where you're going to be hitting a lot of repetitive themes over and over and over again in whatever kind of content that you're going to be consuming. When it comes to information, there is, of course, a lot of information. And it's at that point in time where, when it comes to reading success habit books or just consuming a lot of content, there comes a point where you need to stop consuming all of that information and actually start doing some of that stuff for yourself. Because as you might realize, some of that information that's said in those books may be helpful, but may not be applicable in your specific situation, or how you interpret it is a little bit different. than what the author intended for. So it's important to be keeping in mind that consuming content is important, but you also want to be applying it more so than anything else.